Hi everyone, Kathy Beltran with Wings and Whispers. Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we will be starting step 11, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about more of the detailed painting that we need to do before we can go on. So one of the things I think I talked about was making sure to paint up against this ridge line. The raised line that we used our glue gun with, and obviously paper mache over. So this is going to stand out. So what I typically did was I ended up adding more color, and I worked primarily with the white chalk paint and the ink. I had all my base layers down. And so now what I've done was went back and forth from the white and the ink and kept layering it. And I actually have a almost a silver blue tint to some of the lower layers now, which, obviously I didn't use the blue, but that's what happens when you keep, adding different colors on top of each other. So I actually am liking what I've done. So a few things I want you to be aware of. What I've done is I've also come back in with the watered ink paint and went up against that ridge line and added some darker of the black up in here, all the way down to the center on both sides of each of the feathers. And I also, using a flat brush on the edge of the feathers here, on all of the layers, I actually took my ink paint and just darkened it here. It actually is going to give it more dimension. So the last thing you're going to want to do is, once you get your basic painting down, you want to draw in with a pencil the lines between each of the feathers and kind of do your best with that. When you get down here, you're kind of going to want to branch off this way and branch off this way. So I've actually brought up my line to define it more with the paint. And so it actually stops here, but I've actually brought it here and then went out. So it actually looks like I'm shaping with the black ink. I'm sorry, I keep saying ink, the black paint. And so I've done that all the way on all of the feathers. So I've completed those steps. What I've decided to do after that, since I'm happy with certain of the layers, I actually then brought out my varnish. And with the varnish, I will actually use one of my brushes that I'm just going to grab one of the basic value brushes. Make sure before you start doing your varnish that that piece has been, you've let it dry for at least 24 hours, because what will happen is if you start varnishing, it's just going to all just blend together, and it's not going to be pretty. You're going to have to start all over again. Trust me, I've done that before. So what I've done was, with my bottom layer, I am done with the painting here. Obviously here, this part will come in a couple more steps. So what I've done was varnish this top piece, but I've left the back untouched. I have still to paint that, but that will happen much later on. So on my middle piece, I'm happy with the way it's done. So I varnished the front, the back. I made sure I had it painted because certain areas will be seen. I varnished the front, the back, as well as the sides. On the bottom piece, I did not do the sides here because obviously I still have some painting to do. On the top piece, the only thing I varnished was the back and left the top and the sides just painted, because I still have to come in here and build it up. That's where we'll start our sculpting and adding cardboard and paper mache, and as well as the crystals if you're going to use them. So at this point, I am ready to go on to step 12, but I wanted to make sure that you guys do your center lines between the feathers. Use a fine liner brush, and it doesn't have to be super dark. That's up to you, but just line it so that you can see the definition between each feather. Make sure you finish that lining off here and curve, and paint the sides what color you would like to do it. Lastly, or the last two things is if you want, take your darker paint and come up to both sides of that ridge line and add some darker detail in there on both sides. And then finally, you can come in with your white, and you might have to do a couple coats on your white ridge line, the glue line that we put down in the center of all the feathers. So you'll want to make sure that stands out. Obviously, it can get a little hard, so it doesn't have to be perfect, because in the end, it's just going to be beautiful anyway. So definitely, this is your step 11. Have fun with it. In our next step, we are going to actually put the three pieces together and keep them together so that we can now get on towards the one of the final steps of the sculpting, which will be great fun. So that's it. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.